AskReddit by Astonishing Vanguard. Redditors, what's the most heartbreaking thing you've overheard someone say about you? I was at my longtime boyfriend's college reunion. All of a sudden, a beautiful woman came into view, and he got all excited, saying, "Rose, is that Rose from my class? Blah blah." She was a former classmate and came over to our group. My ex then put his arm around me and said to Rose, "I had a big crush on you in college. If this one, meaning me, ever gets hit by a car, I'm gonna call you because you're really the one for me." Cue the awkward silence. Suddenly, every red flag I'd been ignoring was waving in my face. Thanks, Rose, for suddenly appearing. Without you, I would have endured a horrible marriage and a messy divorce. Rose really did save you for such bullshit, but give yourself some credit too, because holy crap, I keep seeing people who put up with way worse. My best friend said they only hung out with me out of pity because I didn't have other friends. My best friend told her mom that the reason she wouldn't associate with me when we're at school was because I didn't have any other friends. 30 years later, that one still feels pretty raw. Heard my partner laughingly tell friends I was a placeholder until someone better came along. People who do this are lame. I got a very similar one during a breakup. "I always saw you as just my college girlfriend. I'm okay with things fizzling out naturally, but planning for it to be temporary from the beginning is really gross." Overheard my in-laws say they hoped our marriage wouldn't last because I wasn't good enough. If your partner feels you're enough, that's enough then. My granny had dementia. One evening she saw the trailer for the movie Armageddon on TV and thought it was the news. She was in her bed crying while my parents were trying to comfort her, and I overheard her say to my parents, "You need to protect her, me. Go hide and take care of her. She is such a nice little girl. Leave me behind. I'm old, I'll slow you down. Please take her to safety and tell her I love her." I was really moved by that. She was ready to sacrifice herself and face the end of the world alone to keep me safe. My grandmother also had dementia and it was really rough towards the end. She kept asking me where my boyfriend was. We'd broken up, and I'd just say he was home or something because I didn't want to upset her. Finally one day I told her we broke up and she looked me dead in the eye and emphatically said his loss. I immediately started crying because she was literally dying and she was more concerned about me and my feelings. One of my greatest achievements in life was being able to care for her at the end. I kind of struggled in elementary school. It was a Catholic school that charged tuition. One night I overheard my mother say something like this to my father: "We keep paying all this tuition money for what? For her to be stupid?" Damn. My mom called me stupid once when I was a little kid. I'm 37 now, and it's still in the back of my mind. "We'll get ice cream later if you just play with her for a little while. She's like that because her mom just died. You won't have to deal with her forever," her mom said to a girl who I thought was my friend and had appreciated up until that point because she was the only one who, I thought, wanted to play with me after my mom died, even though I would sometimes start crying out of nowhere and had severe anxiety. I was 9 and didn't play with anyone for over a year after this because I assumed I was making people deal with me by being around. It's a weird age to lose a parent. My dad died when I was 8 and the only kid in my class who asked if I was okay was this girl who was always mean to me. "That one is going to be in heat soon," a friend of my grandfather to him. He agreed. I was 12 and the only thing I was interested in were horses. They were well into their 80s. I felt so disgusted, being talked about and viewed like that. You who talks like that, especially about a child? When I heard my best friend tell someone, "I only keep her around because I feel sorry for her." A co-worker told my other friend, "I only pretend to like her because she loves my dog and babysits him for free whenever I have to go out on a trip." She was not wrong. I love that dog and I genuinely loved that friend. I would drive to her place like 4 in the morning because she would have this spontaneous plan to go out for a few days. I miss the dog but I don't miss that chick. Accidentally saw my dad joking about me and slamming me to his and my boss on email on the family PC. We worked at the same company for a time. I won't pretend I was an angel but that hurt a bit. A girl I liked in school in the 90s but hadn't actually met after seeing my pic said to my friend, "I wish he looked how he sounded on the phone. He sounded so much better looking on the phone." We'd been chatting for a while. She didn't know I could hear her. I died a little that day too. OMG, was this the day of three-way calling on secret? Man, I used to do this shit all the time. When I first met him I didn't want to be his friend. I thought he was annoying but eventually he just stuck around. I don't remember the exact words but that was the gist of it. I heard that shit on my birthday and cried in front of everyone. Mayo. I think it's also a big reason as to why I don't act like myself around others. I'm always just super quiet. I don't want to be annoying again. I met my best friend in middle school because he thought I was annoying and he wanted to fight me. I dialed the annoying way up and got a laugh out of him. I'm still annoying, and it's okay. Overheard a conversation between my mom and grandmother when I was a teenager pretending to be asleep. My mom said, "She's so desperate for love and attention. I'm worried she's going to get knocked up or end up with someone bad." My mom literally never said "I love you" to me in my life. I once asked her for a hug and she told me she found it disgusting to touch me. I told her I needed to feel loved and her response was, "I thought you'd have a boyfriend by now." When I overheard that conversation I wanted to run out of the room and scream in her face. I had been begging her to even slightly fulfill her role as a parent for years and her takeaway was that I was fucking desperate for attention. That's horrible. I cannot imagine not hugging my own child. When I was 12 or 13, I spent a summer with my aunt in another state to give my single mother a break, I guess. Back then I adored my aunt and just thought it was a fun, exciting summer getaway. Like camp or something. My mother was neglectful and extremely abusive. I told my aunt and her boyfriend about things my mom had done over the years and they listened but never really made any comment. One night they were on the porch and I was supposed to be sleeping in a room which had windows that opened onto the porch. I heard my aunt's boyfriend say I was the biggest bullshitter he'd ever known. My aunt agreed and said, "Someone needs to keep an eye on that one. She's manipulative as hell." 2 years later I was in foster care because of the abuse, and because my mother simply disappeared, and to this day, 30 plus years later, I still think my family holds me responsible somehow. Not that They're just as guilty as your mom for the abuse. Also we came from the same family lol. The things people tell themselves to absolve themselves of all and any responsibility, am I right? My roommate was a good looking guy that girls liked. One time when we were out, I overheard the two girls we were chatting up refer to me as the excess baggage. Two girls' excess baggage is another girl's Prince Charming. Overheard my fiancé tell their friend they were only marrying me for my money. Ex-fiancé, surely? It's easier and cheaper to get out of it now than it is after the wedding. That I wasn't really family because I was a stepkid. My father confessed this had been said by someone in my stepmother's family after I asked why said person was not at my high school graduation. It has since been explained that this is not exactly what was said, and that this was only how my dad took it at the time and that he was still mad when he explained it to me. But still. At 17, when I was already struggling to figure out who I was, that hurt. And it did a lot of damage between me and my stepmom's family. That is heartbreaking. I hope this person is out of your life. If I'd have known she'd be retarded, I would have aborted her. I'm autistic. Most days I wish she'd aborted me too. I am so very sorry to read this. What an awful thing to say to their own child. I feel so sad for you. I hope you are in a position to get away and live a good life. I jokingly said that I'm pretty and I deserve a handsome man to my mom and uncle. When I left the room I heard them laughing so loud and mocking me. She thinks she's beautiful. I don't think she ever seen her face in a mirror. That was my mom and it broke me. Jesus, your mom sucks. When I was a teenager, my dad and mom were divorced for the second time, and I was not able to maintain a healthy communication with either. I always thought they loved me but they just did not know how to communicate. I was living with my dad, and his wife disappeared for over a week. My dad never said anything to me, but I knew something was fishy. One day I secretly went through his messages to understand what was happening, and I found an SMS from his wife. Turns out she left the house because I invited my friends to stay during the weekend when they were away. Along the messages, she referred to me as the boy no one accepted and got stuck with them. She said things that were not real, such as me causing endless problems in the house. Due to my childhood traumas, I never expressed dissatisfaction or demanded a thing, and I was an extremely introvert, almost never speaking guy. You were not a burden. Your dad should have stuck up for you, but took the coward's way out. My dad yelling to my mom that her daughter, me, is a stupid cunt. It was night. He screamed her awake to say this. And he was mad because I turned on the light to go up the stairs. Mind you, he was still awake. But apparently you need to be able to get up the stairs with no light. I was a server in a restaurant and we fucked up badly. This was in Times Square in a packed restaurant full of tourists who needed to make it to the Broadway shows in time, and our kitchen completely crashed. Nothing was coming out, simple apps and salads took an hour to reach the table, and the customers were rightfully pissed off. Management was not on the floor because they were all in the kitchen screaming at the cooks to go faster. One of my tables, 2 women and 2 preteen girls, had enough and had to run to make their show. They left, but not before yelling every horrible thing they could think of at me. One of the girls caught my eye and mouthed "I'm sorry" as her mother was berating me. The mother grabbed her arm and took her aside, and as I walked past I could hear her saying "Don't ever apologize to someone in service," and the girl was crying. I felt so bad for the girl and it was just so dehumanizing for me. Like, sure, don't apologize to me in this instance, I understand. But anyone in service? What's so wrong with us? The girl was a class human being, but her mother was trash, no matter how much money she had. And these people wonder why the 99% hate them? I once overheard a close friend say I wasn't really important to our group, just a tag along. She used to be so hot, what happened to her? Chronic illness will do that to you. So will motherhood, when the dad is relatively uninvolved and the mom does 99.9% of the parenting. It's hard to care for yourself when you are always caring for others. When my uncle said I couldn't finish the degree program that I've chosen since it was difficult and I am not that smart. But, who cares, I graduated with top honor. You handled it the best way possible. Revenge is best served by a life lived well. Congrats on your accomplishment. Overheard my best friend and his wife talking, and while I forget the exact words, I was essentially, "You don't want to be a loser. I mean, look at me." It hurt, but he was right. Out of school making shit money at a terrible job, not pursuing anything worthwhile, single, awkward, smoking weed all the time, out of shape, lazy, undisciplined. That was like 13 years ago and my life isn't like that anymore. It was hard to hear but also necessary. I feel this one. Years ago I was crossing the street and a guy trying to turn stuck his head out of the window and yelled, "Move it, fat boy," while his friends cackled. I had gained about 45 pounds through laziness and emotional eating. That was a real watershed moment for me, and I shed the weight over a year or so, stopped drinking, and have stayed at my ideal, to me, weight ever since. But still, fuck that guy. I hope he stubs his toe on the daily.